Hey everybody, welcome to episode 7 of the Average Investors Podcast, the podcast made for the average person that might not have much money to invest. This podcast is really for those that are looking to get themselves on a path to a better future. Maybe you're a student, maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe you're well off and just don't know how to invest. Well, don't worry. That's what I'm here to teach you guys. So make sure to go to episode 1 and start off from the very beginning so you don't miss out on a single thing. To start off today's episode, I want to bring up the topic of learning what's right for you. Remember, no investing strategy is going to be perfect for everyone. What I mean by that is there isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of investment portfolio for everyone. This is because each individual will have a different risk tolerance. They may have a different amount of time they can allocate to researching. Perhaps they don't have much to any. They will also have different entry points, and since prices fluctuate, that means returns will be different. They also have different knowledge exposure. For example, imagine being in the construction world and learning of new cost increases, such as the increasing cost in lumber, or some new bureaucratic blue tape that makes it harder to construct. They will cause changes in those respective industries, but someone not exposed to those sectors will only learn of it once it hits the headlines. And that's if they're following those headlines. So what I'm trying to get at is that no investment strategy is wrong if it reaps good returns, and to each their own. So because everybody's going to have their own time of entry, their own knowledge exposure, their own risk tolerance, and also, sometimes it just comes down to when you may have bought, sold, and the amount of money you may have in your account. Now, I wanted to make this point clear because some of you may hear things, even from me, where I may have my own opinion, or perhaps hear others' opinions. So don't think that that's what you should do. First, do your research, then look at if that would even fit your investing strategy and tolerance. Certain things I might mention in the future may be a little bit more risky. Certain things that others may mention to you, it may not be right for you, or perhaps it's just really a gamble, and that's why I really, really put an emphasis on doing your own research and also seeing if it would, fit your investing strategy. And learn to understand what you want to invest in and make the right choices for yourself. Now, in today's episode, I wanted to talk about some of the different trading brokerages that you can use to buy stocks or index funds. For starters, let's talk about some of the different brokerages and ways you can invest. The first is quite a simple one. You can go to the bank, and most big banks will have this. You can set up a self-directed investing account for a Roth IRA or TFSA account, or an RSP or 401k if that interests you more because of your current situation. This is one way. You can also set up the account where the banks will automatically purchase certain mutual funds or index funds for you, such as tech index funds or US index funds. This is beneficial to those that really don't have the time to invest or do their own research, and it will give them broad exposure to the market. Now, this is a fairly common way to invest, but let's get into a little bit more of a personal way that I use. This is a self-directed brokerage. You might have heard of some of these, such as Questrade, Wealthsimple, Robinhood, and Webull, and the list can truly go on. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll use two of these that I personally use as examples to talk about some of the highlights and some of the negatives that these brokerages have. Now, also keep in mind that the ones that we use here in Canada, Questrade and Wealthsimple that I will be talking about, they're very similar to some of the ones that you may have in your own country. Now, for starters, let's talk about Questrade. Now, Questrade is one of the most known and biggest brokerages in all of Canada. And it has a very similar model when it comes to markets and fees compared to other big brokerages around. Now, it has a desktop-friendly website that is perfect for any intermediate or advanced investors. It also has a mobile application, which provides many of these same features. Now, beginners will also find that they do have tutorial videos to help out, and there are some tutorials that you can go out and use to experience the application for yourself and see if it's the right fit, and also kind of how to navigate through it, because it is a little bit tricky. It isn't really the best beginner application for buying stocks. Now, for starters, Questrade has low fees. To execute trades for ETFs, it's actually free. This means that you can buy as many ETFs at zero cost, and so you won't lose any money when it comes to brokerage fees, when it comes to buying ETFs. Now, this doesn't mean that the ETF that you're buying doesn't have a management expense ratio, but it means you won't pay any additional fees to just purchase the ETF shares. When it comes time to sell, though, your ETF shares, you will have to be paying a minimum $4.95, and it adds up by 1 cent for each share to a maximum of $9.95 US for each transaction. Now, this is fantastic for those that really like to hold the shares for long term and aren't really looking to sell their ETFs. Now, for stocks, it's a little different. To purchase and sell regular stocks, it costs a minimum of $4.95 US and adds up by 1 cent for each share to a maximum of $9.95. Now remember that these fees are in US dollars. Now, the benefit of this is that if you buy a lot of shares, you are capped at $9.95. So if you're buying 10,000 shares or 20,000 shares, you're only paying $9.95. But if you only purchase in small amounts at a time, or you buy a company that's kind of expensive per share, the fees really do start to add up, especially if you're buying small amount at a time. Let's say you're doing $20 each paycheck you're contributing to your account to buy shares. You will be paying, over a quarter of that if you're paying in Canadian, if you're putting it in Canadian. The next thing to note about Questrade is the minimum deposit for an account. It does take a minimum deposit of $1,000 Canadian to start trading in either a TFSA, RRSP, or a regular trading account. Now, this may not be a problem for some, but for most of the audience that is listening and trying to invest, especially if you're new to investing, remember, this is going to be tough because a lot of people don't have $1,000 that they can invest right away. Now, just because you may have $1,000, it really doesn't mean that everybody does. And even if they may, they just might not be comfortable trading with it right away. So know your risk and do your due diligence. Now, another thing to note is that when it comes to Questrade, is that just because you do have $1,000 in that account, it doesn't mean you have to trade all of that $1,000 right away. You can trade at your own discretion. You can trade $100, $200, whatever you feel like. Now, the next thing to note about Questrade is that they do have a very wide variety of stock exchanges that you can purchase stocks from. Pay in mind that certain markets will have possible tax implications, but knowing the tax implications with investing in foreign markets, you will have access to US markets, Canadian, London, Hong Kong, the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, and so many more. Now, certain trading accounts may also have restrictions on investing on certain companies, so be careful. And Questrade will tell you, though, what you can and can't invest in when you try to execute a trade. Now, perhaps one of the biggest benefits of Questrade is the conversion fees. For many other brokerages, you will have to convert money each time you buy or sell US stocks. But with Questrade, it will convert it only if necessary. For example, if I just bought $100 of stock in a company called ABC in US dollars by converting my Canadian dollars, I can then sell it for, let's say, $150 US, and I will keep that money in USD. This will help reduce my currency conversion fees significantly if you don't need to convert the money back to Canadian, or let's say if it is Canadian, you don't need to convert it to US. For example, let's say I just sold that for $150 US. I can then go and use that to buy another US stock without having to pay that currency conversion fee. You will also have the ability to use a technique called Norbert's Gambit, which you can look into a little bit further if you are interested in investing in foreign companies, especially if you're planning on doing Canadian to US or US to Canadian. It's a little bit of a trick, and there's a few ways to execute it, but you can look into it a little further if you like. Now, the last detail to cover when it comes to Questrade is the tools available at your disposal. You have lots of tools, such as real-time stock quotes for buy and sell. You have lots of charting available. It can also update you if any major news or shifts in price have occurred for the stocks that you are watching. It also allows you to have additional analytical tools and stock screening capabilities for an extra monthly fee. This covers many of the benefits and drawbacks of Questrade, and there are some more, but you can dig a little bit deeper if this brokerage does interest you for stock trading. The next one we're going to talk about is Wealthsimple Trade. Now, Wealthsimple is a very mobile phone friendly and very beginner friendly brokerage that has a very easy to use app. Now, they do have a desktop version as well for those that are looking to trade on their desktop. Now, let's talk about some of the benefits of this brokerage. Wealthsimple Trades boasts a very easy to use interface that allows you to easily deposit money with no minimum deposit amount. For example, you can deposit $10 if you like at whatever pace you like to deposit it at. This allows a wide range of investors, from those that are looking to invest small amounts of money at a time, or even those that are looking to invest large sums of money. It also allows you to instantly deposit up to $250 right away to allow you to purchase stocks at, let's say, the market goes a little bit down and has a little quick dip. It allows you to tap into $250 to purchase stocks right away. They will also pull the money from your account roughly within 1 business day. The next point to talk about with Wealthsimple Trade is the fees. Well, good news. There are no fees when you purchase stocks with Wealthsimple. This means that if you want to buy shares of TD Bank, you won't have to pay any extra fees to do so. You can directly use your Canadian dollars to purchase that share of TD Bank off of the TSX. This doesn't mean that you won't have any fees to pay though. You will have to pay a currency conversion fee when buying foreign stocks. This fee is 1.5%. So what that means is that if you have US dollar is trading for $1.25 Canadian, and you can buy a stock for $100 US, it will cost you $125 US, Canadian, plus a 1.5% fee, which is $126.50 Canadian. So again, if you're trying to buy a US stock that's trading for $100 US, you will have to pay $125 from the conversion and then a extra 1.5%. Now, this is assuming that the conversion is, $1 to $1.25. Now, this conversion fee will be on every single dollar that you convert, no matter what. This 1.5%. This conversion fee can really start to add up and cost a lot over time, so be very careful with it. The next thing is that when converting money to US dollars, and let's say you buy a share for $100 and you sell that share for $125 US, that money is then converted back to Canadian. And you will have to pretty much pay a conversion fee from US dollars back to Canadian dollars. You also don't have the option of holding US dollars, which can really make those conversion fees add up. So what that means is, let's say I use my Canadian dollars to buy a US share. So that US share is $100. So I spent about $126.50 Canadian to buy that one US share that is $100. Now let's say that share went up to $200 to convert it back to Canadian. And this is going to happen automatically the second I sell it. It's going to convert it back into Canadian. It's going to hit me with another conversion fee. So as you see, anytime you're dealing with any US stock, you're going to be paying a conversion fee of 1.5% on any buy and sell. Now, another thing to note with Wealthsimple Trade is that Wealthsimple does list companies that are on the TSX and some companies that are on the TSX Venture and also the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. But they don't list every company. For example, if you try to look for Disney, you won't find it on the Wealthsimple Trade app. But they are constantly adding companies with time and also exposing companies that IPO much more frequently than they were in the past. So I believe with more support and more updates, the Wealthsimple app will get better over time. But currently, they do not support a lot of companies. Now, the Wealthsimple application does also lack tools to help analyze stocks and the ability to see real-time stock quotes and stock news. The stock quotes on the Wealthsimple app are about 15 minutes later than real-time prices. This can lead to missed opportunities and overall incorrect information when you're looking at your portfolio through the application. Now, they do offer a monthly charge to get real-time quotes, which is a new feature, but you can just download Yahoo Finance for free and get real-time quotes and news from the application. And that's completely free to download off of either the Apple Store or Google Play Store. Now, overall, Wealthsimple is a very stripped-down application that may be beginner-friendly, but it lacks a lot of tools that can greatly benefit investors. I think it is perfect for those looking to invest in Canadian companies because you can avoid all fees, but it does lack a lot of features. Now, that about wraps up my talk on these two brokerages. But I use these two as an example of what benefits and drawbacks certain brokerages may have. And in the US, you have brokerages offered by the big banks that are very similar to what Questrade has. And you also have other apps such as Robinhood, which are closer to Wealthsimple and the fee structure and just how they're set up towards users with their different tools and such. Now, make sure you look into brokerages offered in your country and see which one fits your investing style based off of fees, tools that are available, and the overall usability of the application. And also, make sure to be smart when you're investing and do your research when you purchase stocks or sign up for a brokerage. Also note that no matter what, whenever you do put money into at least Questrade and Wealthsimple, your money isn't stuck there. If you decide, hey, I put in $1,000 in Questrade and I want to pull it right out, go right ahead. There isn't any issue with doing so. And on another note, I will link below my code for Questrade and Wealthsimple, so they'll help you get some money as well and help you out with your journey. So please check it out in the description. Now, I also want to tell you guys that I will be bringing out YouTube tutorial videos and showing you guys how to use these brokerages on how to purchase stocks, how to use the app, and just kind of the general information and get you guys a good feel of it without having to first try it for yourself. So make sure to subscribe to the Average Investors Podcast on YouTube. I will also be doing a special video on something exciting that I mentioned in the last episode. So stay tuned for that as well, because that's actually, it's a big news that I got coming your way. And also make sure to follow us on Instagram. Now I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast, and make sure to follow, subscribe on your streaming service. It does really help out, and drop a review. It really helps out in growing the channel. Now, thank you guys so much, and good luck with your investing journey. Take care, everybody.